Driver quits rideshare for 2 years and comes back. So we get to see like the stark difference of what it was like before he quit and what it's like after he quit. So it's always fun to see that like light and dark comparison. An Uber and Lyft driver took 2 years off to recover from leukemia. He says the pay now isn't enough to get by anymore, and he's ready to find a new gig. After driving for Uber and Lyft for 8 years, Richard H. was diagnosed with leukemia in the summer of 2021 after the pandemic. So he quit during the pandemic. He had been making a decent living from driving in the Phoenix area, though his cancer diagnosis and treatments took him out for work entirely for nearly 2 years. I'm glad he's alive. When he returned to driving in early 2023, he noticed he struggled to make the amount needed to live comfortably. Richard, who asked to only use his fair name for fair professional repercussions, said after 11 years of driving, he's ready to find a full-time job this year. I'm glad. The amount they pay us per mile, along with gas costs and repairs, is just not worth it anymore, Richard told Business Insider. Thousands of Americans with disabilities or other health issues nationwide are embracing gig work to pay their bills, especially since many are unable to work traditional office roles. Many value gig work as they can work around medical appointments or recovery days and strategize when to work to maximize their earnings. Still, many gig drivers say their earnings aren't enough to cover basic expenses, with some falling behind on rent or car bills. One driver with a disability only took home $14,000 despite making over $110,000 in gross earnings from Uber and Lyft. That is cap. I covered this. I made a whole video about it. It ties back to the standard mileage deduction. Business Insider needs to do a better job here because they're going based off of his tax documents, which will show that he made an income, but it doesn't show the tax-free dollars that he made. Now, this driver does have other issues that did pop up, but it's not the full story and it's extremely misleading, and they need to do a better job. So if you haven't seen that video, I have it. Richard began driving for Uber shortly after they launched in Phoenix market in 2012. He had been in sales and business development and figured out driving could be a way to pull in extra money. Drivers who got in early, they probably did very well. If I were a driver who started early and I didn't use that income with intentionality, I'd be kicking myself in the shin right now. Because there's just, I think the split used to be 70% for drivers and then 30%, no, it was 80% for drivers and 20% for Uber. It was a different time. At the time, he said he was paid a constant $1.40 a mile, which a few years later fell to 99 cents a mile. It was about an 80-20 split between what he earned and what ride-hailing companies took. As the price per mile declined after the adoption of upfront pricing, his vehicle maintenance expenses increased when gas prices skyrocketed. He would get around 55 cents per ride as compensation for higher fuel costs, which he said was almost like a slap in the face. I forgot about that. When Russia and Ukraine first started the war and gas prices were doing crazy stuff, I forgot they gave us like an easement. I forgot about that. But everything he's saying seems to be on point, like mathematically. Like about $1 a mile is kind of the gold standard now. He was earning $1.40 before. 80-20 split, we just touched up on that. So far, everything's kind of tracking to what I expect from a reasonable take on rideshare. He used to rely solely on surge pricing, which would be a multiplier for ride earnings, though he said he's seen those rates decline as well. Yes, surge pricing used to be a multiplier. To the best of my knowledge, it's just a dollar value now, but multiplying is typically better than just a dollar value. But I wasn't around for the multiplier Uber, so I don't really have much experience to say about that. Back when I started, surging was a huge thing for me, and that's how we were able to make some really good money, Richard said. There were guys making well over 6 figures driving for Uber back when I was first started 11 years ago because it would surge 3 to 5 times the rate. Yeah, so a $10 ride at three times is $30, at 5 times is $50, significantly better than just a flat $20 on top of your $10, depending. He's also noticed more drivers on the road than ever before, which made more profitable ride offers scarcer. I'm not going to drive to pick somebody up a few miles away, especially if it's coming from a distance, just to go a mile or two for $5 to $7. It just doesn't make sense economically. There are tons of drivers and almost every driver will pass on riders like that. Uber and Lyft, better in the past. We all agree. If I will take a bad ride, if it puts me in a good area. If I have to drive 20 minutes to pick someone up, to drop them off 5 minutes, but I'm dropping them off somewhere I want it to be, I will take that ride. I live like 20 minutes from downtown. So if I get a ride, pretty much regardless of what it pays me, I'll take it if it puts me downtown on a Friday, Saturday night, and then I'll stay downtown. But I don't never say never. There are situations where the straightforward thing isn't the straightforward thing. Like I've seen other YouTubers where they'll be like, I'm not taking that ride, even though it's putting them like downtown on a Friday, Saturday night. And I would take that. But that's a very small case. I'm not justifying here. They don't pay us enough for us to be able to make a decent living now, Richard said. Back then, I go out for 3 to 4 hours and make $400 when I first started. Now you have to go out and work 10 to 14 hours to try to make 300. That tracks, right? 10 divided by 300 is $30 an hour, which in my market, that's considered a middle night, a middle day. So, his numbers track. But man, if I was doing Uber and Lyft back when it was $400 for 3 to 4 hours, yo, I'd be way out of debt. I'd probably own a plane by now. Like, ah, I wish I did this earlier, man. I wish I did this earlier. But this kind of goes back to what I'm saying. Like, today's the best day to make money with rideshare because it's probably gonna decrease tomorrow. Like you gotta think like that. If you want to escape rideshare, the sooner you realize you come up with an exit strategy and start working towards it, the better. Because all the data has pointed towards a decrease in pay. And on top of that, they want to replace us. You might disagree with whether they will be able to replace us with self-driving cars. That's a different argument. But these companies have said that that is their intention. Why would you want to stick around and work for a company who has the intention to replace you? You shouldn't. So even if you disagree on whether you think they'll do it or not, they said they'll do it. You need to have an exit strategy. Facing the diagnosis. While trying to figure out whether driving could be sustainable in the first year or two of the pandemic, Richard received the news in June 2021 that he was diabetic. I received news that I was diabetic in 2023. I'm no longer diabetic because I worked on it. If you're type 2 diabetes, you can become non-diabetic. If you're type 1, that's it for life for now, unless they come up with some medical thing that can save you. He stopped drinking alcohol, quit eating badly, and lost 20 pounds in a month. However, he was still having chest issues and discomfort. He struggled to walk and drive, and his joints were aching. The diagnosis was leukemia. Something I've done is whenever I eat and I'm driving, especially long shifts, I'll take a 15-minute break and just walk. It goes so far to get up and walk every like 4 hours. One, to keep you awake and alert, and then two, to prevent blood clots and just get your body moving. He was in treatment from September to November, after which he was in remission. Still, he had to do more rounds of chemotherapy, and he fell ill with COVID, which could have killed him since he had cancer, which delayed his stem cell transplant. He was officially cleared by May 2022. Bro, if you're watching this, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. He needed to isolate for nearly a year to get his health back and build up his healthy blood counts. During this time, he was able to pull in some income from a sunscreen business he runs at home, but money was still tight. Man was making money selling sunscreen business during the pandemic. I guess people were going outside more often. Interesting. He got back into driving 9 months ago, driving in limited amounts before returning full time, which he said he hasn't been too fruitful. He said he's still recovering, though he drives 6 to 7 days a week from 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. That's a decent shift. That's not. He's picking. He knows what he's doing. Screenshots from November 2023 through January 2024 show he's pulled in between $566 and $849, being online 50 and 60 hours a week. In contrast, he said he was making between $1,200 and $1,600 a week, driving similar hours back around 2018. Probably can't compare to that 60 hours. I can make that much in 50 hours now. I can do that now. So that something doesn't track there. But I will say between November last year and January this year, like now, that's the slowest I've ever seen it. It was the hardest to make money during that time period. So that part does track. He has avoided crowded events like sports games and concerts that take forever to get and leave and are elongated by taking time to find passengers, which he's seen a few hundred drivers doing. I understand that strategy. A lot of savvy drivers like me who have been around for a while, when we go to special events, concerts, sporting events, where there's a big congestion of individuals who are going to need rides, we don't even turn on our apps. That is a mistake. What you should do instead is don't mess with the congestion. That's fine. You're stuck in traffic, you're losing money. Set an area filter that's like away from that area. Hopefully, the drivers get stuck over there. It creates demand and surges elsewhere, and you capitalize on that demand and surge that doesn't have traffic attached to it. Staying at home is not the solution, especially like you have to take advantage of the gap. You just have to. I have a video showcasing that. It's called How I Doubled My Income with New Lyft Strategy. I screen record. I show you exactly what's happening. There's a concert happening here, and it's causing a vacuum down here. And even though the bonuses and surges are stronger up here, I stay down here and take the mid surges because I know I can do a lot quicker rides without the traffic. So I don't agree with that part of his strategy. We get near the events, we're right next to the pickup area, and we just talk to people and look at what the pricing is on the app. People do this at the airport in my town and they don't make any money. He's done freelance fiber optics repair work to pull in extra cash, though he's looking for a full-time position this year. He said he's been interviewing with a few companies, which has been difficult due to the gap in his job history. Once I get a full-time gig, I may not even have to drive, Richard said. I just have to provide for my family. I respect it. The very balanced take. Pretty much the only thing I disagree with is just not turning the app on at all during like surges. You have to figure out how to operate in the gap. But the notes he's given out, they're not unreasonable. Very balanced take. I liked it. I respect it. Very balanced take. That's very rare for these Business Insider articles, and even more so for some drivers.